Yeah, my name is Amanda McMillian, ALF Class 58. We'll just start with that right there. I'm currently serving as President and CEO of United Way of Greater Houston. I actually just celebrated my 5-year anniversary with United Way, so I'm thrilled to be here with Steve today. Gonna have a good conversation.
Congratulations on the anniversary.
Thank you.
Steve Maislin, pardon me, and I am Class 53 of ALF. And I am President and CEO of Greater Houston Community Foundation. And this month I celebrate my 24-year anniversary in that role.
So we're thrilled to be able to talk about the Greater Houston Disaster Alliance today. We actually just celebrated our 2-year anniversary of the launch of the official launch of the Alliance in 2023. One of the things that we thought was really necessary with respect to the Disaster Alliance is making sure that we had a more robust day-to-day infrastructure in blue skies and not just in gray skies, so that we could respond more effectively and efficiently in times of disaster, and really make sure that the people in our community who needed help the most got that help more quickly and more comprehensively. And one of the things we talked about, Steve, when we were putting this all together was that we were, we'd done a couple of joint recovery funds. We were getting better and better at it with every fund. And we were really good at reacting, right, to disaster. But there was this incredible opportunity to really set up an infrastructure so we could be more robust, more proactive, have more time to implement best practices, instead of just being really good at responding in the moment. And then also doing some more work to make sure from an infrastructure perspective, we and our neighbors were as ready as we could be, right, to respond in times of disaster. So really wanting to be those philanthropic first responders when disaster strikes.
Yeah. And I think we're very excited about the model as well. The work is incredibly important, as Amanda talks about it, but also the idea that our organizations are collaborating this way. When you speak about kind of the philosophy of ALF, if you will, this is a really powerful cross-sector collaboration, because it's our organizations that are leading it, but we partner with the nonprofit community, as Amanda was talking about. We're also very closely aligned with the city and the county as well, and this is incredibly important work. And like Amanda talked about, each of our organizations have unfortunately had a lot of opportunity to practice this, but now we've come together and it's really powerful, and we're sharing this idea not only within the nonprofit community locally, but really nationally as a best practice. And I think we both find that very exciting.
Yeah.
Sure, absolutely. Let me give you a little bit of background that kind of helps explain why we came together. Our two organizations have about 35 years of experience in this work. And of course, everybody knowing our region knows that we get disasters periodically, particularly hurricanes. So we've been at it a long time, and we get better at it every time. We do very much another leadership component. We try and learn every time. We've run a number of funds separately, though we often, in the midst of that, talk to one another. I think we've raised and given out over $250 million of disaster funds, and that was in the pathway leading up to creating the formal alliance, as Amanda mentioned earlier, back in 2023. And in terms of the alliance itself?
Yeah, it was definitely a partnership that grew over time. I think kind of before my time, in the wake of Harvey, there was a lot of collaboration, information sharing, but still two separate funds. And when COVID hit in 2020, our teams came together and said, hey, we're serving the same community. Like, maybe we should join forces, leverage each other's strengths, and see what we can do. And between the COVID-19 Recovery Fund and then also the Winter Storm Uri Recovery Fund, and so at that point we signed an MOU that our boards had both blessed. Those two funds raised over $35 million to help people with those two disasters. Obviously, one of our learnings there being disaster isn't always a hurricane. Disasters can take many forms and shapes over time. And then, since formally launching the Disaster Alliance, again, with a lot of insight input from other senior fellows, with the blessing of the City of Houston and Harris County Judge's Office, really since then, just last year, we were able to, between the floods in April, the derecho, and Hurricane Beryl raised over $9 million and helped over 4,000 households with, kind of emergency financial assistance, home repair, and navigating, other recovery resources like FEMA assistance. So we've just been so grateful to be able to have this partnership and hopefully kind of help a number of families and individuals across our region recover at a time when it's just really difficult in the wake of disaster. I think there are a few principles that serve this partnership very well. One of the things with my team at United Way of Greater Houston that we talk about a lot is we talk about staying steady in the mess, which I think is really important, even when we're getting to spend more time during blue skies preparing for long-term disaster recovery. But I think if you think about kind of the key tenets of ALF leadership, right? A big part of this, we talk a lot about in ALF, kind of leadership goes to those who show up, and that is really how this started, is us talking to each other, being like, how are we going to show up for our community? We're trying to serve the same people. We've had good communication and collaboration in the past, but how do we really move this forward in a different kind of way? It definitely, we talk about at ALF how leadership requires trusting relationships. We have to work at a very high level of trust, which I do think we have. And so I think that's really, really important as well. Steve, you've already talked about how critically important collaboration is to this partnership as well, and I think that's important. I would say too, for me, just a couple of other things that our teams have to do together. We do turn up the heat sometimes in terms of that productive disequilibrium, and we value honesty over harmony. And so I think, right, I think our teams are able to kind of have those debates and uncomfortable conversations. We know that in times of disaster, the needs will always far outstrip the resources available, and that's hard to navigate. And I think our teams do a good job of just hashing that out together.
Yeah, I would agree. One frame that I remember from the work with ALF was the idea of getting up on the balcony and looking down and seeing. Yeah. And I think we do that a fair amount, because no matter how much you plan and all the blue sky work, there's always chaos in this at some level.
True.
It's more controlled chaos than it was, and being able to look at that, and at the end of the day, it's a fascinating leadership challenge, particularly I think for the two of us, because sooner or later there's going to be something going on, whether it's among our staff, a resource challenge, a media challenge, what have you. And trust, as Amanda was talking about, is so incredibly key, because I know if something is somewhat off the rails, maybe a little bit more than somewhat, I know when we connect, there's trust, and we're going to figure out how to fix it, how to go forward, how to do the best thing for the community, and we're never going to put either of our organizations in the least bit of harm's way, if you will. Well, that's the driver of the whole thing. If you don't have that level of trust, collaboration isn't going to succeed. So when you talk about connection to ALF, it's those, it's crucial conversations, it's transparency. But to me, I mean, we have great teams. They work together. They're willing to, work at a level where you're always giving up a little something when you're collaborating. And I think our teams have been extraordinary, and they have great expertise. But at the end of the day, to me at least, our trust is critically important. And I think we have a really hard challenge ahead of us, which is to deeply institutionalize this, because we're not going to both be there forever. And I think that's going to be a really interesting path forward.
Yeah, that's true. Such a good question.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think probably, and I suspect it's true for you, for me, it starts with looking at the end game. And for us within this alliance, it's all about helping the most vulnerable in our community. And you see it on TV. You see what has happened to folks and what the challenge is. And these are a lot of people who are living challenging lives the day before the storm, if we're talking about a hurricane, for example. This work is incredibly important, and we are making a really important, tangible difference in their lives, and helping with financial assistance and home repair and all sorts helping them get assistance from the state and the federal government, what have you. This is really important work. And I think if we keep that in mind and we stay humble, another critical component of leadership, then everything works backward from that and helps us work together and stay aligned. And everything else is just kind of noise at some level. We have to pay a lot of attention to it, but always keeping what we're doing at the end of the day in mind. And I think our teams do an extraordinary job of that. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, I would echo those two things, right? I mean, one of the things you talked about, right, is how leadership is an activity, not a position, right? I think, thankfully, most leaders know that by the time they get to ALF, so that's really good. But really keeping the work at the center, right? What is the work at the center? What are we trying to do together? And then the other thing I would say, and the thing that, I mean, I've talked to not just my classmates, but so many ALF fellows about in terms of some of the incredible value of this program is, I think at this point in our careers, it's frankly, it's really hard sometimes to be able to hold that space to create new and deep relationships. And ALF gives you the space to do that, which is such a gift. And just really lean into that and know and trust that, as part of this program and after the program, you are really creating deep, long-term relationships that again, you can really lean into to create real impact for the community.
Yeah, and I think the ALF program was also a great reminder that standing still is rarely the answer when you're in a leadership position. And I think part of our role in our organization within the Alliance, but also more broadly, is reminding our stakeholders, our staff, our boards, everybody, that standing still is not risk-free. It looks like it sometimes. And so as leaders, I think framing what the options are, but also what the risks are and the opportunities, right? And so I think ALF was a great opportunity to meet with other leaders and talk about this within various organizations. And what are you looking at as possibilities for your organization? What's holding you back besides resources? Because we always have that challenge.
Right.
And it was just such a great reminder that, we're all managing risk, but, you can't let it paralyze you, because standing still is not risk-free, and moving forward is where the opportunity lies.
Yeah, not making a decision is still making a decision.
Right, exactly. Well said.
Yeah,
That was
exactly
that was so
right.
much quicker than I said it.
You go first.
I go first. Wow. Can I use two? I think it's very intentional. We're very strategic in how we go about things, and I think that's critical in a collaboration. We always keep in mind, I think, or certainly we try to, always may be a little too self-congratulatory, but we certainly try and keep in mind that we are two organizations, not one.
Yeah.
And so if an issue comes up and we are meeting within the community foundation offices, we try and remember that we have partners and that we're going to move our thinking forward, but we need scenarios and options, because we're going to be in a meeting with our friends at the United Way and we're not making a decision by ourselves. And so it's intentional in the planning in Blue Skies. It's intentional even in the midst of, some very frenetic activity and maybe even a little chaos there, if you will. So I think that's a really important part of it. And to me, the word I'm looking for, I think, is it also brings me some joy, because I think the work is so important, and I think we're doing it in so much the correct way and so much more powerfully than we did 10 years ago. And in leadership in general, when you feel like it's not perfect, but that you're doing it in a way that's it's not easy. Collaboration's never easy, and it's never done, right? That's another thing that's important. But you feel like you are making the best of the resources and your organization's strengths and what have you, and you're making a really important difference in the community. At the end of the day, that really brings me some joy.
I love that. See, that's why I got Steve to go first. Because I do think intentional is such a good word. And this will sound cheesy because of where I work, but if I were to use another word, I would use the word united. And united means a lot of things to me. It does mean intentional. It does mean joyful. it means more than doing it together, right? There is this intentionality, there's this trust, and there is this joy, right? Like, we can all do so much more together than we can on our own to make a difference. And so to be able to have this partnership, and it's called an alliance for a reason, right? Like, all these words are kind of next level, and we really are trying to be next level and forward thinking and very intentional in the work that we're doing together. And so for me, that all culminates in really being united, with and for our community, to help make lives better, not just when disaster strikes, but really every day. That's part of the bigger ethos of what our organizations try to do every day, and a huge part of why ALF is here.